as I waited on, I would be invited to play a game of cards with the real guides. The cards were very elaborate and delightfully designed, with golden borders and amazing imagery depicted upon them. They all had the standard clubs, spades, hearts and diamond suits, with the numbers that segregated them, as card decks have. This particular game had us always with only 2 cards in hand, and the idea was something along the lines of placing your card down when it followed on in numerical and suit order to that which was already on the table. Anyway, what was curious about this game was that I went to place a specific card down, but it seemed all the guides had this very same card, even though there should only have been 1 of each card in the pack. The card was the 2 of spades. So perhaps, as we play the game of life and the process, we are reminded that we are all in the same life. We are this same awareness. On the creational surface, we might have a specific set of cards to work with, proceeding with our process of awareness from whatever point we decide and find ourselves in with our personal selves, placement in life and circumstances. These differences between the personal selves can lead to attitudes and funny ideas that then have to be dealt with. But the demonstration here was that we all, in fact, have the same cards, despite the surface creational variations. For we are all ultimately the same awareness, as everything is awareness, and from that perspective there would be less attitude, as we recognize each other more so being to being, and not personal self to personal created self. Anyway, my personal self readjustment was complete, courtesy of the guides, to which I extend my gratitude, and I returned to my car to proceed onward and beyond this place. As I was getting in my car, there were a couple of irate and shabbily dressed individuals who were not visiting here for personal self-adjustment, they lived here, quite at home and content in the degradation of their personal restrictions and this unsavoury real-side environment. They hammered on the car, screaming obscenities at me. I would quickly wind up the windows and bolt the doors, representing my not wanting to incorporate any of the creational ideas they represented into my personal self-vehicle, wishing no part of them, or to be baited into agreement with them in any way, as their fits of rage were very much designed as an attention and thus an agreement getter. I would drive off, with them still hollowing in the distance, until they eventually faded from view. The final scene was an indication of my overall success and decision to shed a few more personal self-idea restrictions, as now I found myself back in one of those grand real-side universities, with large numbers of other aware folks. I'd sorted out the personal self again, and now could move on with more important business, the business of the isness, as Duane once put it. We were in one section of this university specifically, as it was website day on the real side, and we were working this on the real side here, that it could filter through with greater effect and impact on the physical. Duane was in an adjacent room, and although I couldn't see him from where I sat, I knew he was there.
Wow, okay. So you've got all these little episodes here, Kevin. It's great. So the first one is, and I have fun asking this question too, people just to bother them, and that is that did you come to Earth to get a job? Okay, so again, we've all been there. We've done the job thing. I played the family guy with the daughter and the wife, and was a contractor, carpenter for over 40 years. And I played that role, which is fine. And I was shown many times it was time to, quit, stop doing it. Well, I saw that, but I was a little reluctant because I was making good money, etc. And it's like, how else was I going to support myself? I was trying to do other things at the time, but it took years to do that. But eventually, it happened. And then in your second experience with the car and the crushers and all that in that place, yeah, I've had quite a few of those myself. I remember one very vividly where I was riding in this car. This was, probably 10, 15 years, probably in 1980, in the 80s or something, with the corporation, where it was on a street, And I got out of the car. It was a black car. And as the car went into the street, there were the boys standing all around the intersection, at different places across the street and whatever. And there was this giant crane with one of those big balls that crush the buildings, that they swing and crush the sides of buildings. Well, as the car drove off a little bit, they released it and the ball went and crushed the car. Yeah, that was a cool scene too. So again, yes, they are there. They don't say a word. They just kind of do it. I kind of looked at the scene and I was a little startled, and I kind of walked off somewhere, etc. So, as these things happen on the real sides, the boys do what they do. And then the next one, you're in a card game. Yes. So in other words, almost like playing poker or whatever, which is a risk game. And also, you're interested in playing the game. That's the whole idea, because, creation here is like a poker game. It really is. We see it a lot in the Western movies, etc. They sit around, they play poker. It's a risk game, and you win, you lose, whatever. That's the risk you take here. But it's more than winning or losing. And I wanted to ask you, so yes, everybody's, basically dealt a hand, and the game goes around and around. There's 52 cards, which is interesting, which is a 7, which is like the 7 levels, okay, etc. in creation. Also, you had 6 vessels there. That like represents the 6 different levels in creation up to the deep dark border. I was going to ask you, the 2 of clubs, the 2 of spades, how did you see that as?
That was something I was puzzling over for a while, and I didn't really come to any conclusions, but I think if I ponder it a little longer, something may come to me. Maybe something along the lines of the old saying of a spade being a spade, or something like that.
Exactly. A spade being a spade. So you get the 2 of spades all of a sudden comes up. And then as you're leaving, there's 2 people pounding on your car, isn't there? All right. So a spade is a spade, etc. So these people have made their choices. So, there's your vehicle. Okay. And etc. With your personal self and what you're doing here and what we're presenting. And in a way, this bothers certain people. So, and it's usually people, because again, for the most part, who's going to come up and start bothering you? Usually somebody you know. It only makes sense that they would be someone you know. And again, the 2 of spades. A spade is a spade. And I remember, like in the books, I wrote about it where we were in the boat on Blue Sky Island, and Rebazar was in the boat, and he threw Harry off into the water, and a giant claw came and got him and pulled him down. And he said, and he's never coming back. Yeah, now he has the choice, but so far that's what it is. So again, these are like little warnings too. So all of a sudden you draw the 2 of spades. It could have been something else. It could have been, the King of Hearts or the Ace of Hearts, but it was the 2 of spades. And then you get these 2 people. So then you go into the university, etc. So you went through that. We're all going through our boot camps here. I am too. On a daily basis. I have to deal with it, attacks, everything, really bad stuff. The last one was for over a month and a half, several times. I had that rash. I thought that would be it for me. I mean, it was just really, really bad. But anyhow, went through that too. All those attacks, etc. So, but other than that, this is great. Your description of everything is just terrific. Yes, it's really very beneficial to those people that pay attention, and especially to the one person you saw where they couldn't decide, but you objectively could see, what they couldn't. And this is how the boys are too. And when we get past our reluctance, and we're always working on this, because they can see what we can't. And so as you really learn to see what the is, not just experience but really recognize it, then it only makes sense that you wholeheartedly make this and everything real with what you do, and that becomes your total focus. In other words, you're still dealing with the personal self, but you can see that there is a position to where it's not to where you're getting somewhere, but that you stand in a real position where you don't need that personal self anymore, but you can still utilize creation for what it's supposed to be utilized for, and not being used by creation and being the effect of it anymore. So